Okay. Well, to begin, uh, again, time for visions and revisions. Hope everyone's doing well. Um, Looking forward today. This is a great day. We kind of celebrate our end of the year, what we accomplished at the clinic, and then award two of our students who just incredibly excelled. Um, and that's Peyton Smith and Melody Andrews. So we'll be doing our award ceremony also. And that's right. We want to definitely give a clap to them many times, many times. We're going to do claps. Uh, okay. So just want to do some preliminary stuff. After our Zoom meeting today, a number of students will be going to Proof Beer Garden. And I recommend drinking orange juice. That's what I recommend, orange juice or lemonade at the beer garden. That's my recommendation. But to begin here, so once a year we look back. We look back at PILC and what a year we had, right? I mean, this is the year where the pandemic is starting to wane down, right? We're starting to wean off the pandemic. But I just had students last week who got infected with COVID. So it's still happening. It's still happening. And that we're slowly moving from that world of COVID to some other world, which we'll find out what that's going to be shortly. But again, I take pride of all that was accomplished this year. So I want to say a few words about the Public Interest Law Center as a whole, and then the professors will talk about their own projects and clinics. So when I look back at this past academic year, I think one of the biggest things for me is a client from the Children in Prison Project, Kenneth Young, a client we've represented almost 10 years. And that finally he returned home to his community. And he was a young fellow who received at the age of 14, he received 4 consecutive life without parole sentences, 4 consecutive life without parole sentences. And the students at Public Interest Law Center for years have been advocating. We got his sentence, went to hearings after hearings until finally he was released this past summer. So that was one of our major accomplishments in our Children in Prison Project. Another major accomplishment is having a brand new clinic. I know Darby can't see us right now because she's having technical difficulties, but creating a brand new clinic, and that's the International Human Rights Advocacy Clinic, and that's a major amount of work and also a major amount of potential. So now we can do cases and work on projects from all over the world, from Africa to Syria to you name it. And what's nice about this project, hopefully we're developing more funding so our students can actually go to a variety of these places around the world too. So it has great potential. And a number of our alums are very supportive. And we have a dynamic professor, Darby Scott, who's leading it right now. So I'm very excited about that happened this year. The other thing I'm very excited about is, and very proud of, is we have 2 new clinical professors. These 2 new clinical professors, in many ways, they're identical in the sense that they're brilliant, they're compassionate, and they're incredibly hardworking. And that is Ashley Hamill and Danica Harley, and both Ashley and Danica has far exceeded all our expectations, and one of the reasons they exceeded all our expectations is they're student-centered. A lot of universities, a lot of professors talk about being student-centered, but it's malarkey, right? It really isn't. These folks spend a lot of time with students, and they're truly student-centered. And so we have great promise with both Ashley and Professor Harley and Professor Hamill. So we're very happy to have them with us at the Public Interest Law Center. Then I want to talk about amazing students. And that's one thing that's hard to describe. One thing at Public Interest Law Center, we just have these one after another, just amazing students. And so I'm just going to pick a few students, right? And that's always hard when you do that, when you pick a few students. But let me just start off with two students who I have not had in my clinics. So here's two students who I have not had in my clinics, and I do a bunch of clinics. And that's Max Dietz and Abigail Chapman. I have not had either one in my clinics, right? Okay. So, but why did I pick those two students? Since I didn't have, well, I tell you why, because of the buzz in the hallways and buzz in the Zooms and the emails. I was constantly hearing the amazing stuff that Abigail and Max were doing in their clinics. So well, who did this? Abigail. Who did this? Max. And so I just wanted to mention two students who I really, have not had in my clinics, but I've just been very impressed with all their work they've done. Now I got to mention some students in my clinics. I'm biased, right? I have to mention some in my clinic. Olivia and Precious and Emily Scott, just hard, just like Max and Abigail, these hardworking, compassionate, very dedicated to public interest students, we're just so proud of. And then there's a couple students who did field trips, and I want to mention those field trips real quickly. One group of my students went to a Lowell Correctional in Ocala to visit one of our clients who got life without parole sentence. And I asked him, I said to them, look, I see my good friend Matthew Dietz in the background here. Matthew and I are alike. We both love photographs, right? And we both love photographs. And so I said to my students, I said, make sure to take a photograph when you're at the prison. Make sure to take a photograph. So, and I could tell my students they were okay with me taking a photograph, but they really didn't want to do it. But they stopped, and they stopped to take a photograph next to the sign at Lowell Correctional. And then someone stopped, somebody on a truck stopped and started yelling at them for taking a picture, right? So I got him in trouble. But again, visiting Lowell Correctional, again, that's part of what we do at the clinic. We expose students to a variety of experiences that he wouldn't have received otherwise. Also, another student, real quickly, I want to mention is Nia Tennell. Nia, she went to Kids Corner last month, and her report from Kids Corner is shocking. And her report is going to have reverberations all around the state of Florida and around the country. For the way, again, Mr. Dietz here, Matthew Dietz, the leader in this topic of medical fragile children, the way that even with all the work Mr. Dietz did, they're still treating kids in these places is just disgraceful. So anyway, again, I want to give a shout out to her for all that she did going down to Kids Corner, which is all the way down in Plantation, Florida. Okay, so enough on the big picture. Let me turn now to the professors and let them say a few words about their highlights of their clinics. And Professor Hamill, would you like to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Professor Nino, for all your kind words and your passion for your work, and both on behalf of your clients and with your students. I miss being a student of yours, and I am very jealous I never got to take the International Human Rights Clinic. So to all of you who have gotten the opportunity to do that and work with Professor Harley as well, who's an amazing colleague, I'm glad you've been able to do that with us. And thank you for all your work in all of our clinics. The Farm Work and Immigration Rights Clinic, as any of you know who have worked with us, which I think there's a couple of you, it's a really dynamic practice. We have a lot of different case types. It's very quick moving. It's constantly evolving. We're in the middle of one of the worst refugee crises we've seen in many decades. There's 26 million refugees worldwide. Many of them are in the US, many of them are in Florida, and a good number of them are in Tallahassee and the surrounding area. So the need is huge. The work is undervalued and sometimes underpaid, but this is an area of law that is really expanding, and the immigrant advocate community is very strong. And I know a lot of you have gotten to see that, and you're entering that community, not least of whom is Peyton, who will be starting DOJ honors program with the Executive Office for Immigration Review, if that's right, Peyton, what you'll be doing. Yes. So I'm so proud of her and the work that she'll be doing to uphold the rights of our immigrant community members in immigration court. So I just want to, really, really highlight the work that the students have done this semester and last semester with me and previously with Professor Scott. A lot of wins for kids who have been abused, neglected, and abandoned in state court. We just won our first asylum case for a human rights defender from Nicaragua. She is a human rights attorney who worked for one of the biggest foundations in Nicaragua, defending free media and the right to due process and rule of law. And all of her colleagues were detained and are being tortured in Nicaragua, and she barely escaped. So she now is an asylee. She has all the rights of a refugee, and she is going to be able to stay in the U.S. in safety.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it really goes to the students, Anne-Marie Massia and Nick Karen. They led her case last semester. And this semester, the quickest asylum case I've ever seen, the shortest lifespan of an asylum case I've ever seen. But a lot of the reasons because she came in, she was able to come affirmatively and is not in immigration court. So we know a lot of our cases won't be resolved that quickly. Most of the cases you all worked on are still unresolved, and those will be years in the making. But you will get a random text from me or Professor Scott one day that your client finally won their case, and all the hard work you did is a big part of that. So the impact you've made in people's lives in our community is really important. And I hope that, I know I always remember the first SIJ case I took with Professor Nino in the Children's Advocacy Clinic. I will never forget that kid. And, he's a big reason why I wanted to work with unaccompanied minors in my practice. And I know you all have that case that you've worked on at PILC, that case that you will never forget, and that it'll be a part of who you are, but also who you want to be as an attorney, which is, kind of part of your identity now. It's not just a job, right? It's something more important than that. So I hope that you'll take all your wins and move on and do even greater things. But I'm so proud of those students who worked really hard on that case. This semester, we got about 2 weeks notice to write an entire brief and submit all the evidence. So my whole clinic all dropped everything they were doing, and everybody just worked on that case, and they did amazing. So I think that the teamwork and the leadership skills that PILC teaches you are really invaluable. So I'm really just so proud of the students. We've also screened around 80 Afghan evacuees for legal relief, and we're moving on now to doing pro se TPS clinic, helping people apply for asylum and special immigrant visas. So that'll be something that we're doing in partnership with the International Rescue Committee, CAR, and some private attorneys. And we're calling that the Afghan Legal Assistance Project, the ALA project. So that's something that we're kind of looking to establish for students who just want to focus on those cases. Again, different case types, but focusing on that population. We will probably be seeing some Ukrainian refugees come to the area as well. We've just found out. So I think, and obviously we have a huge community of Nicaraguan asylum seekers. If you've worked in the clinic, you know that. And people from Central America, a lot of kids. So the work that we've done this semester, last semester, and over the past year has led to between 70 and 100 people receiving some kind of pro se services, full representation, just being oriented to the immigration system, which in itself is empowering for people who are fleeing trauma. So the lives we've touched are for those people, it means everything. It can be really overwhelming looking at social justice issues and the insurmountable abuses of our community members and people we care about. but each person that you guys worked with, that person's life has changed forever. So I hope you continue to do this work, and thank you all for everything you've done, and congratulations to our award winners. You all have, I haven't gotten the chance to work with you all personally, but I've heard amazing things about you, and I know you'll go on to do great things.
Thank you, Professor Hamill.
Turn it over. Yeah, thank you.
And Professor Harley, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. Thank you for those remarks, Professor Hamill. That was inspiring. I have to say, in this first year of working with PILC and working with our students here, I am just so encouraged by the passion and the excitement around the work that we do. In particular, I want to talk about our HELP clinic, our Human Trafficking Exploitation Law project. Really, the work that we've done through HELP has been incredible. To see what may look like disparaging situations and cases be handled with grace and compassion has given me a sense of hope for what is to come, and hope for what is in store for our students and their legal careers. Similar to some of the cases in the immigrant rights and farm worker clinic is the fact that some of our cases do not have a short or near ending. There may not be a finality or so to speak of, especially when you're dealing with clients who've experienced deep trauma, who have either survived or are at risk of trafficking themselves. And so a lot of that looks like an ongoing relationship. It looks like establishing trust and establishing a rapport that goes deeper and is able to address the many needs that may come up. And the fact that our students have been willing and able to address those needs, that they've been so responsive and so caring, willing to drop things at a moment's notice to be able to help our clients when the needs arise. It's been incredible. And I have to say, the work that has been done both in the fall and spring semesters really is just set the bar for what's ahead for our clinic and our project. In particular, I would like to highlight the fact that just this past semester, our students were so aggressive and intentional with promoting and writing these really powerful op-ed pieces on solitary confinement that all three of our HELP students this semester were published in newspapers throughout the state of Florida. And that's an exciting accomplishment and really deserves recognition. Not only that, but they took the opportunity to essentially organize and facilitate their own panel on solitary confinement with leaders and experts from Disability Rights Florida, ACLU, and our very own Professor Terry Coonan, alongside showing the movie that was created by the Children in Prison Project in previous year. And so I say all of that to say the involvement within HELP is so multifaceted that there are projects alongside the direct client representation that's being done. And it's exciting to see that students are able to balance that and that they're encouraged to balance that. And just last semester, our students participated in a labor trafficking panel discussion with the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center. Peyton Smith and Melody Andrews really did a fantastic job in providing a voice to the work that we do on a really global scale to address supply chain issues that are taking place in Africa, and how that supply chain, specifically regarding the sourcing of cocoa, impacts children, and how it should be brought to more awareness here, even in the States. So it's been incredible to see. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the work that's being done with the Tallahassee Community Remembrance Project. The Tallahassee Community Remembrance Project has been doing some exciting work with Leon County Schools to implement a essay contest on, particularly regarding the issue of lynchings and racialized violence. And so bringing to attention these issues and allowing students the opportunity to speak on share their experience and what they've learned through diving into research on this material. Not only that, but we are providing the materials for Leon County schools to be able to implement lynching and racist violence into their curriculum. It's been an ongoing progress and project, but it's been really wonderful to see it take shape and take form in ways that we had not expected. So we're excited to see what will come next. And then also, I know Professor Nina, you'll be speaking directly to CIC, but I just want to say again that our CIC students did so much incredible work this year that no one of our cases were simple or easy to define or easy to categorize in a box, but that our students were flexible enough to accommodate and jump in and really meet the level of needs that we were seeing. It's been incredible, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to work with you all.
Very good. Well, thank you, Professor Harley. And Professor Scott, are you available to say a few words?
Yes. Hi, I'm sorry. I'm lurking in the background. Thank you to Professor Harley for letting me come in her office. For some unknown reason that even Carl, who's much better at technology than I, cannot figure out, it's not letting me log into the meeting. So I apologize for that, but I'm glad that Professor Harley's letting me share the space with her. I'm very excited to be here tonight to celebrate all of you. This is such a special group of students. I feel very lucky and honored to have had the chance to get to know and work alongside many of you in very different capacities over the last few years. But I also just first want to say thank you to my amazing colleagues, Professor Anino, Professor Hamill, Professor Harley. I feel really lucky to work with such incredibly talented and passionate and dedicated social justice champions. So thank you all so much for the work that you do. In particular, I want to just thank Professor Hamill for taking my baby, and I don't even want to say taking it to the next level, but taking it like 10 or 20 more levels. She has just absolutely done an astounding job expanding and growing the clinic. So very, very, very appreciative of that and very excited to have her on our team. We're very lucky to have her. So, and just to all of you students, thank you for all your hard work over the last few years. I truly feel so inspired by each and every one of you in class and in your work with clients, in your work in the community. You're just really inspirational. So thank you for that. I want to just share a little bit about the new clinic for some of those of you who might not be familiar. We did launch a new clinic this semester, the International Human Rights Advocacy Clinic, which has been long a dream of mine. So it was really extraordinary to see that come to fruition. And I truly could not have asked for a better group of first cohort of students to take the seat around the table and take on this new clinic, this bold, ambitious new clinic with me and help me shape it. So thanks to each of you. I see Abigail, I see Max, I see Melody, and hopefully the other students will get this message as well who aren't here with us tonight. But you all dedicated yourselves so much and were very patient and showed me a lot of grace in creating a new clinic, which I've now done 3 times. And I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. But it was a wonderful semester. We got to work on some really fascinating projects. We worked on a couple projects for an organization that has its mission to bring human rights perpetrators to account under US law. And so we did a lot of work preparing for a trial that was supposed to happen in March that unfortunately got continued to June, but that groundwork will be really critical to observing that trial, which our summer students will do. And that's against an officer from Argentina who was involved in a massacre called the Trelew Massacre in Argentina in 1972 that involved various extrajudicial killings. And he's the only officer that hasn't been held accountable in any fashion that was involved in that atrocity. So we will be continuing to work hard on that, but the students really poured their heart and soul into preparing for that. And they also poured their heart and soul into another project for that organization, which involves essentially discovering what evidence exists in order to determine if a case can be brought. Unfortunately, we can't share as many details about that due to the confidential nature of it, provided the case hasn't been initiated yet. But there was a lot of combing through declassified government documents and cataloging them, that a lot of hard work that was done that will be instrumental in eventually having accountability for that atrocity that we'll hopefully before long be able to share more with you about. And then finally, we had students work on analyzing universal jurisdiction, which is this really interesting notion in international law that certain crimes, international crimes, are so egregious that regardless of where we find the perpetrators, we should be able to hold them accountable, even if they don't have ties to that particular country or where they're found or the atrocity didn't occur in that country. So things like war crimes and genocide and crimes against humanity and torture. So we had students that were analyzing the application of universal jurisdiction in certain countries in the region of Southern Africa with an organization that's based in Johannesburg, South Africa. So that was really fascinating work. And we will continue that work as well. We're going through various countries one at a time and doing policy briefs that will be used in their litigation to try to enhance the application of universal jurisdiction in the region. So again, I just want to say thank you to all of you for your hard work. You're an amazing group of students. I'm going to miss you all very much. And hopefully I look forward to celebrating with some of you in person later today and also on Sunday at the reception after graduation.
That's right. Very good.
Thanks.
So, at this point, I need to say a few words about this Children's Advocacy Clinic. First, fabulous students, Jasmine Adams, Emily Scott in the previous semester, Olivia Ingram. We have wonderful students, and they just work super hard and always do the extra step. And so thank you. I want to go next now to the award ceremony, right? Because that's part of what we're here. The first award is the Clinical Legal Education Award. Now, let me just spend a few minutes about the Clinical Legal Education Award. That is, the Clinical Legal Education Association is the association of clinical professors in the United States. And they allow one student per school to receive the award. And we had a vote with the clinical faculty, and the unanimous vote was Peyton Smith. The Clinical Legal Education Award, in many ways, I like to think of it as like the Nobel Peace Prize. It's only given to one person, and you can't get any higher as a clinical student. You just cannot. So why did we give it to Peyton? And I think the reason is several reasons. One is Peyton has done almost everything. She's done alternative spring break. She's done children prison project. She did HELP, Human Trafficking and Exploitation Law project. She's done the immigration clinic. So she's lived at the Public Interest Law Center, and not just lived there. She has showed incredible enthusiasm and also I want to stress leadership. Over and over again, Peyton will show leadership on projects. I just want to talk about two projects that she worked on. She worked on, and many of these projects she worked on, she worked with Melody too. So even a lot of these comments I want to share with Melody too on. But there's one project, Slavery at Sea. And I recommend it, if you haven't seen it yet, is a video we did that Peyton was the leader with Melody and other students did. And it's just a real powerful video about how a lot of our seafood products that we receive in this country are produced by slave labor. I was going to show it, I thought, for the part of it for the ceremony today. But once I rewatched it, I said, "Oh my God, it's so bleak," and that it would give us won't set the right tone. But it's super powerful, and it really deserves national attention. And so I wanted to bring that across. Another major work that Peyton worked on was, and took a leadership role on, was solitary confinement. She did a video and an interview of Catherine Jones, a child who had spent many, many years in solitary confinement in Florida. And really, it's the stories that Peyton was able to solicit from Catherine Jones that really is going to have an impact on the state. And then one last remark, then I'll turn it over to the other professors to make a remark about Peyton. So I just started thinking, what's my last remark? So I started thinking in the year 600, so I'm going to go way back, okay? I'm going to go a bit way back. In the year 600, there was this theologian in Wales. There was a theologian. His name was David of Wales. I love that, David of Wales. And David of Wales, very interesting character in history, very interesting. All these different religions, very different kinds of religions, all venerate David of Wales, which is like usually religions who conflict with each other too. But one thing David of Wales said was, and he said this almost at his dying days too. He said, David of Wales said, do ye the little things in life. Do ye the little things in life. And that was his motif. Do ye the little things of life. Well, when I think of Peyton, I think that's true for most of us. That if we do ye the little things in life, things will be good for us, right? For most of us. But then there's exceptions. And I think Peyton is one of the exceptions. I think she's going to be doing big things in life. And that's the reason why I voted for Peyton to receive this award, for the big things. So let me turn it over to Professor Harley, and then Professor Ashley, and then Professor Scott, for to say your words about Peyton Smith.
Thank you, Professor Nino.
Okay.
I just want to say it has been an honor. I had the opportunity to meet you back in 1L and to see just how committed and dedicated you've been the entire way through law school. And just the amount of devotion that you've shown to the clients, to these cases, to the projects even. It's been remarkable, and it's been edifying. I appreciate that you would pop into the office and just to say, hey, I appreciate the fact that, you would never stop looking for another solution. If we encountered a barrier or if we encountered an obstacle, you would be one of the first to think, okay, what are we going to do next? And I think that is something that our clients need. And I know that speaks to the character of your advocacy, that you are a problem solver and that you are quick on your toes to come up with a solution. And that is so appreciated. We'll be working in the class setting and help, and you will be the one typing up the notes and figuring out how to make edits and adjustments on the fly in real time. And the things like that really speak to just your commitment and your willingness to sow into what we are doing. It's really fantastic. And I am so excited for what you are going to do in Texas. I know you are really, really going to move this world forward in powerful ways through your advocacy. And I'm excited to see what that will entail. So congratulations, Peyton.
Very good. Professor Ashley, Professor Scott.
Yeah, I haven't worked with you, Peyton, but I've heard great things. And based on all that, I would hire you. So good luck. And yeah, if you need a job, circle back around. That's
very good. Very good. And Professor Scott?
So I too met Peyton as a 1L. I remember a very eager 1L at an AIR meeting, and I was immediately impressed with her and knew she was a go-getter, which is definitely how I would describe her, just very, very proactive and always kind of pushing ahead in a really good and inspiring way. So I was very excited when I'm pretty sure she was the first application to the immigration clinic that summer. Very excited to take the clinic, and she was a wonderful student that summer. And then this year, it's been really fun to work with her as one of the coordinators of Alternative Spring Break. And by fun, I mean, I made the best decision ever in putting her and Cameron in charge, because they just did everything. I really didn't have to do anything at all. And not only did they do everything, but they came up with all these new ideas and just continued to grow the program. And that was so wonderful to see. We hadn't had a full program since 2019. So the last year Professor Harley was in charge was in the pandemic in 2020, when we ended up only being able to send about 6 students. So it was a big year for our Alternative Spring Break program, and Peyton did such a fabulous job with that. And so, like you do with everything, you're a go-getter, you get stuff done, and you get it done really well, and with a big smile on your face and a great attitude. And that's going to take you so far in life. This is so well deserved. So congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay, very good. Peyton, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, definitely. And I will replay the last 5 minutes anytime I'm feeling down to just hype myself back up again. Whatever partner sends me this recording. A lot of the things that you said that I did, Professor Nino, is the first part of my speech, so I will reread them. The Public Interest Law Center has been the highlight of my time at FSU. I've had the opportunity to participate in the Farm Workers Clinic, as well the Child Advocacy Clinic, the Children in Prison Project, HELP, as well as Alternative Spring Break, going on it and co-coordinating it. And I don't think this is PILC, but I helped a little bit with the Downbar Ellis Fellowship Fund. That'll hopefully help some of the international human rights kids be able to pay to go abroad. Carl did the math for me, and that's about 760 hours of clinic work plus 100 or more hours of ASB work. During my time, I worked, needless to say, despite the pandemic, I lived in the Advocacy Center, and PILC slowly became a special place in my heart. During my time there, I worked with 14 clients and completed 3 PILC videos: the Catherine Jones story, Slavery at Sea, and an immigration worker rights video. You guys should check all of those out on our YouTube page. They're very sad, so I'm glad you didn't play it. I got to help with support for a solitary confinement bill, fundraise for an individual reentering society, Kenneth Young, from prison, draft a petition for DHS under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement and forced labor provisions, help research for a larger lawsuit against ICE for Immigration Detention Center's COVID-19 protocols, and start the Help Social Media campaign. A lot of the stuff I'm listing I did with Melody, so shout out to her and Danica and Eliana, who's not on here. I learned a lot about myself and my passions while in PILC. The only word that comes to mind for my time here is grateful. I'm grateful to each professor, Professor Scott, Professor Hamill, Professor Harley, and Professor Nino. Professor Hamill, even though I didn't get to take a clinic with you because I hit the ungraded credit hour limit with all of my other clinics, I wish I would have, and you've been the support despite that. I'm grateful to Carl for helping me with any tech issues or scheduling problems I had, no matter how small they were. I'm grateful to my family who dealt with me crying at the end of my exhaustion from frequent uphill battles with the system. I'm grateful to the teams and partners I got placed with and got to know intimately. I'm grateful for my clients the most of all, who opened up to me with their lives and cases, whose stories will stick with me forever. There are a few people not here today that I'm also grateful for. My grandma Peggy for instilling a fiery spirit that let her little granddaughter accomplish anything she put her mind to, and my grandpa Ivan, who showed me the importance of building and pouring into the community around me. I'd like to end, this is a little bit of a sad note, but happy, depending on how you put it, with a poem I wrote 3L semester reflecting on my time in the clinics. It's titled Advocacy. Yearning to breathe free, birth control shot for the caravan ride north. Left, choose slave labor with a slim chance of sending pennies home. Right, make a claim, locked up, no translator or lawyer. Left, heat stress, cancerous pesticides, debt collectors threatening family. Right, fluorescent lights, separation, and forced hysterectomy. I'm going to the supposed Golden Gate, searching for the dream. Salmon with the side of a boy who lost his arm to a fishnet on year 4. Tilapia with the side of a sick man tossed to sea in a box alive. Frantically searching for red flags as boats dock. I'm going to the border where ginger and people are traded as commodities. 13, in an adult prison. Surrounded by animal noises from cells beside, you become how you were treated, except dogs are treated better. I want to crawl out of my guilty pigmented skin. 9x9 cell with no ventilation, dip clothes in the toilet to cool off. 5 years with hot dogs, roaches, and racing thoughts. Tie the sheet, kick the chair, miscalculated the guards would care. I'm going to withdraw the assault report for a ticket out. Locked in my room again, my birth was a burden. Can't work out anymore. 11 was when he first noticed me become a woman. Cigarette burns on my face, electrical whips on my back. Speak up, mom screams liar. Stay quiet, keep the scary voices in my head. They sickering crazy. Avoid eye contact, I can't tell another stranger. I'm going anywhere but home. Oh, to be groomed. He bought my first Christmas gift. I can handle another of his friends inside me. He loves me, I owe him, he loves me. I'm going to take the hit because it's better than the street. Insulin or groceries, EpiPen or rent. Am I poor enough to be worthy of health? I'm going anywhere but the hospital. Let the evil you see be a driver for good. DCA appeal, prison calls, foreign birth certificates, driver's license, visitation, hearing prep, hours on hold following each extension line. Listen and elevate the little voices. High highs mean low lows. Take the win and cry off the loss. We begin again tomorrow. I'm going because there's no such thing as not going.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much for sharing that very powerful poem. And we definitely would like to include that poem in our webpage too. It's real powerful. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, thank you, Peyton. Now we're going to turn to our next award, and that goes to it goes to Melody Andrews, and it's our Rising Star Award. Advocate on the Rise. Advocate on the Rise Award is an award we give to a student who really is exceptional at the Public Interest Law Center. It's a student that we see incredible progress. And that's true with Melody. Melody, like Peyton, she has taken, the Children's Advocacy Clinic, the HELP, Human Trafficking Exploitation Law Project, the International Human Rights Clinic. She was my research assistant, and I'm sure she was just many more too. If there were two people bunking out at the Public Interest Law Center, it was Peyton and Melody. They were there all the time. So I first met Melody. It's very clear today that I met Melody, and it's really I give the credit to Professor Scott, our meeting. So Professor Scott, one of our things we try to do at Public Interest Law Center is try to recruit students all the time. We're always sending out emails. We're always trying to come up with different ways to educate the students about the Public Interest Law Center. So Professor Scott had this idea that, look, we'll buy a fancy box of donuts and we'll go to the student union and we'll just sit there with these donuts and we'll let students know if they want to talk about public interest, we're there. And so we did that. Carl was with us also. And we waited and waited and waited. And really, I think the only student who showed up, and Professor Scott, correct me if my story is wrong, was Melody. And so Melody showed up. Hopefully it wasn't just for the donuts, right? So, and it wasn't. So Melody shows up and really expressed her commitment to public interest at that time. And she's shown it through all her different clinics that she's worked at. I do want to bring, she's done so much, and we can talk about all the different things that Melody has done. But one is just, a game changer, so to speak. And that was, I had these naive ideas that doing a podcast would not be a problem. That, oh yes, we can do an eight episode podcast. Oh yeah, we'll agree to do that, and it's a huge amounts of work with this podcast on human trafficking. And we could not have done it. I want to make it clear. We could not have have done this podcast but for Melody Andrews. She stepped up to the plate, even though I'm the one who made the commitments about it. She stepped up to the plate and made this podcast a dynamite podcast on human trafficking. It's on Spotify. It's getting lots of hits. And this summer and this year, hopefully we're going to be launching it throughout the country. And so I just want to say that incredible amount of work she's done in all these different clinics, but the one of the major was the issue of the podcast and all the work she did that. In addition to that, during class time, often Melody would bring two other folks with her, and that was her dogs, Marlin and Chomper. Is it Chomper? What's the dog?
Merlin and Chompers.
Chompers, Merlin and Chompers, and they were very attentive in the class, and they would definitely bark. Whether or not of approval or disapproval, I wasn't sure of. So anyway, we're very, very honored to give you the award. And now let me turn to my colleagues. Professor Harley, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. I think one of my possibly the funniest memories from this past year was the experience of going into a professional quality sound booth inside of Melody's closet. She had the whole thing set up, and even after having to do multiple takes, she was so patient and so wonderful with us. But no, even that aside, Melody, your heart for this work is incredible. I know in my transition into this role, being able to work with you as you were the research assistant was so beneficial, because you had a wealth of knowledge of our clients, of our cases, of the people involved, and you were willing to go to bat for them, each and every single one of them. And it really just, your advocacy and your heart for this work shines through. The fact that we could sit and have a conversation about what is frustrating us about these systems, what's frustrating us about the lack of response or the lack of energy towards specific matters, and be able to see your heart for making a change and a difference in this. And so I'm so excited about the work that you're going to be doing with the PD's office. And I really, really could not commend you enough. So thank you.
And Professor Scott and Professor Hamill.
I think Professor Hamill said she had to go pick up her son, so she put a note in the chat. So yeah, I'm really excited for Melody to be receiving this well-deserved recognition. She's a student that I felt like I knew before I really knew her, because she was always at Pilk and I would see her here all the time. And I always saw her CC'd on Professor Nino's emails as his research assistant. So I was really excited last fall when I finally got to properly know her as a student in the International Human Rights class. And then, of course, to have her finally in my own full class this semester was such a privilege. And she just is such a deep thinker and analyzes issues really holistically from every angle, and then proceeds to explain them very eloquently and very persuasively. She's just extremely skilled. She's one of those students that I forget as a student, because she just walks and talks like an already seasoned attorney. I know she's going to have a tremendously successful career, and agree with everything everyone has said. Your heart and your passion is infectious. And it's been a real privilege to get to know you this semester. I'm very excited for what the future holds. Glad we're going to get to keep you here doing social justice work in our community, and hope you'll continue to not be a stranger to Pilk. But very big congrats for you. Very well deserved. Very
good. Well, thank you, Melody. Do you have a few words you would like to share with us today?
I do. Thank you, Professor. It's such an honor to be here with everyone receiving the Advocate on the Rise Award. I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about what Pilk has meant to me. 4 years ago, if you couldn't tell by the podcast, my previous job was an audio engineer. And that is a field where 95% of engineers are men. I was the only woman engineer on a team of about 10 people. And I found out that I was being paid less than everyone else 3 different times. So after the 3rd time, I called an attorney for advice. I had never spoken with an attorney before. I don't think anybody in my family has ever spoken with attorneys, really. Nobody is an attorney. But I called this attorney and I told him about my situation and how scared I was to bring this up with the company because I didn't want to get fired and I didn't want to be in a position where I couldn't pay my rent. So the attorney gave me some advice and told me to call them back if they fired me. And I kept that moment with me throughout law school because I was really, really scared in that moment. You know, there was something that was not right and I wanted to fix it, but I didn't know how. Mm-hmm. And I remind myself of that moment whenever I speak with clients, because it's not a good feeling to be in a situation where you're scared and you don't know what to do. And what the Public Interest Law Center gave to me was the opportunity to be there with clients going through that feeling and saying, I'm here and we can work through this together. And I think that sometimes that's the point. So at PILC and throughout law school, we get exposed to tragedy and sorrow and suffering, but everybody here wants to be the person that helps people through tragedy and change things for the better. And that gives me a lot of hope. It's easy to face cynicism and anger, but whenever I've felt defeated at the many, many things that need to be changed, I look at all of the people that I've met through PILC and how everyone here is proof that there are always people that try to do good. And not everyone succeeds every second of every day, but it is truly inspiring to see how much people care. My father once told me that most people can't change the world, but they can make a dent. And I hope that's what I've done here at PILC. I hope that I made my clients feel like they had someone to turn to and when they needed help and that somebody cared. I want to share another story that I've heard really quickly. There was once a child walking along the beach and thousands of starfish had been swept up onto the beach. And the child was going along and picking up starfish and throwing them back into the ocean, saving their lives. And after a while, a man came up to her and said, "What are you doing? You're not going to be able to help all these starfish. You can't even begin to make a difference." And the little girl picked up another starfish and threw it in the ocean and said, "I've made a difference to that one." And I remember the story when I feel overwhelmed about how hard things can get and how overwhelming things can feel. All of you have impacted my life and inspire me to get better at this work. And I want to thank each and every one of you. I'm so happy I got to learn and grow with you. And I hope we all get to make our dents on the world.
Very good. And thank you so much, Melody. We're honored that you were part of PILC and all the hard work that both you and Peyton did, and the whole group, everyone here. So at this point then, I just want to say thank you to everyone, wish everyone a good summer. And for those students who are graduating, I want to wish you a good life and stay in touch. And if we were in person, we would give big hugs, right? If this is post-pandemic days, we'd give big hugs to everyone. And there's going to be a post-award ceremony party at the beer garden there, but proof. But again, orange juice is good. And so I wish everyone a great summer, and thank you again.